Our English friends may or may not agree, but I must say that Gulli Danda is the king of sports. Even today, whenever I see children playing Gulli Danda, I feel tempted to join them. To play this game, you don't need a lawn or a court or a net or a bat. You just need to cut a small branch from a tree and chip a small piece off it to make a gulli. You can begin to play with just one more player. I have some of my sweetest memories associated with this game. To come out early in the morning, to climb a tree to cut a few branches and chisel out the gullis and dandas. That excitement and involvement, that batting and fielding, those fights, that innocence in which differences between castes and the rich and the poor disappeared. There was no room for pride or showing off one's wealth. Among my playmates, there was a boy named Gaya. He was elder to me by 2 or 3 years, thin, tall, fingers like a monkey's, and also a monkey's quickness and restlessness. The gulli might be of any shape. He would pounce upon it like a lizard grabs an insect. I didn't know whether his parents were alive or where he lived or what he ate, but he was a champion player of our Gulli Danda fraternity. The team for which he played was sure to win. On seeing him come, we would dash towards him and urge him to join our team. One day, Gaya and I were playing. He was batting and I was fielding. Isn't it strange that we can enjoy batting the whole day, but don't like to field even for a minute? I tried all the tricks to wiggle out all those that are excusable in such a situation. However, Gaya was not willing to let me go without completing his batting. When my requests were of no avail, I started running towards my home. Gaya ran after me and caught my collar. "You can go only after I have completed my batting. You were enjoying while I was fielding, and now you're running away when it's my turn to bat? If you keep batting the whole day, should I keep fielding? Yes, you'll have to field for the whole day. Without food and water? Yes, you can't go until I've had my turn. Am I your slave? Yes, you are. I'm going home. Let me see how you stop me." Gaya dragged me towards himself and said, "I want my turn." I wanted to run away, but he won't let me go. I swore at him. He hit me with a danda. I started crying. Gaya couldn't face this and ran. I wiped my tears quickly and forgot the hit and went home laughing. I, the son of a thanedar, was beaten up by just another boy? I felt humiliated, but I didn't talk about it to anyone at home. After some time, my father was transferred to the city. I became so eager to see the new place that I felt no pain of losing my companions. I was bragging to my friends. There the houses are different, touching the skies. If a teacher beats up a boy, he is sent to jail. The power the children have to convert the imaginary into real cannot be appreciated by us, who can only change a truth into falsehood. The poor fellows were feeling envious of me and seemed to be saying, "You are God, bhai. Go. We have to live and die in this wretched place." 20 years passed. I was now an engineer. I came to the same town for inspection and stayed in the dark bungalow. My very presence in that place brought back the sweet memories of my childhood. I picked up my stick and came out to walk through the town. My eyes restlessly searched for my childhood haunts, but here there was nothing familiar except the name of the town. Where there was a wasteland once, I found pakka houses. Where there was a banyan tree, I saw a beautiful park. The town had undergone a metamorphosis. Had I not known the name and the location, I wouldn't have recognized it. The undying memories of my childhood were opening their arms to my old friends, but the world had changed. I wanted to embrace the place and cry and complain that it had forgotten me. I longed to see its old face. All of a sudden, I saw 2-3 boys playing Gulli Danda in an open space. For a moment, I forgot who I was, a big officer with my position, power, and authority in full show. I went close to them and asked a boy, "Son, does a man named Gaya live here?" One of the boys answered, somewhat overawed, "Gaya? Yes, can you call him?" The boy ran, and in a short while I saw him coming back accompanied by a dark, huge man. I recognized him from a distance and wanted to take him in my embrace, but stopped for some reason. I said, "Gaya, do you recognize me?" Gaya bowed down to salute me. "Yes, Malik. Why wouldn't I? How have you been?" "Oh, fine. What do you do?" "I look after Deputy Sahib's horses." "Where are Matai, Durga and Mohan? Do you have any news about them?" "Matai died a few years ago. Durga and Mohan have become postmen. What about you, Sahib?" "I am the district engineer." "Sarkar, you were always very bright." "Do you play Gulli Danda now?" Gaya looked at me in surprise. "How can I play, Sarkar? I get no time." "Come, let's play today. You bat, I'll field. I owe you a turn. You can square it today." Gaya agreed only after great persuasion. He was a hired labourer, I a big officer. There was no match between us. He was feeling embarrassed, so was I. Not because I was playing against Gaya, but because I felt that people would treat this as tamasha and assemble in a big crowd. I asked Gaya to accompany me to the dark bungalow, and both of us sat in the motor car and drove to an open spot. We carried an axe too. I was very serious about it, but Gaya was still treating it as fun. There was no trace of excitement or pleasure on his face. Perhaps he was lost in thinking about the divide that now existed between us. I asked, "Gaya, tell me honestly, did you ever think about me?" Gaya replied somewhat bashfully, "How should I remember you, Huzur? I'm worth nothing. It was my good luck to play with you for a few days, that's all." Saddened, I said, "But I always remembered you. Your danda, with which you had hit me, don't you remember it?" "That was out of boyishness. Don't remind me of that, Sarkar. That's the best memory of my childhood. The enjoyment that I get out of it I find nowhere. Neither in the respect I get, nor in the money I earn. There is something special in that memory." By this time, we had driven nearly 3 miles away from the town. There was silence all around. Towards the west was the marshland spreading for miles across, where we sometimes used to come to pick the lotus flowers and fasten them onto our ears like earrings. The evening of the month of Jait was drenched in a crimson light. I quickly climbed up a tree and cut a small branch. A gulli and a danda were ready in no time. The game began. I positioned the gulli on the small boat-shaped hole, the starting point, and struck it with the danda. The gulli flew right in front of Gaya. He raised his hand as if to catch a fish, but the gulli fell just behind him. It was the same Gaya in whose hands the gulli would land of her own will. He might be waiting to the right or the left. The gullis would just land into his hands as if he had cast a spell on them. The new gulli, the old gulli, the big gulli, the small gulli, the sharply tapered gulli, all would land in his hand as if through some magnetic power. But today the gulli showed no love for him. Then I sent him on a gulli chase. I broke all the rules, substituting cheating for my lack of practice. Gaya was watching all these violations, but he said nothing, as if he had forgotten all the rules. After he had fielded for half an hour, the gulli hit the danda. Gaya shouted in a victorious mood, "It has hit! It has hit! With a clatter!" I pretended. "Did you see it hit?" "I didn't." "It made a clattering noise, Sarkar." "It might have hit a brick." How such a sentence came out of my mouth surprised me. To turn this truth into falsehood was like calling the day night. Both of us had seen the gulli hit the danda, yet Gaya accepted my version. "Yes, it must have hit a brick. Had it hit the danda, it wouldn't have made such a clattering noise." I began to bat again, but after such blatant cheating, I began to pity Gaya's naivety. So when the gulli hit the danda a third time, I agreed to field, out of generosity. Gaya started batting, but he was terribly out of practice. He tried to strike the gulli twice, but failed each time. His turn was over in less than a minute. Both of us got into the car and were back in the town before darkness. As he was going away, Gaya said to me, "Tomorrow there will be a match here. All the old players would come. Would you come? I'll call them when you are free." I agreed and came there in the evening to watch the match. There were 2 teams with 10 players on each side. Some of them were my childhood companions. Most of the players were young whom I did not know. The match began. I was watching sitting inside my car. Today, I was astonished to see Gaya's skill. When he struck the gulli, it flew into the sky. There was no trace of yesterday's hesitation, reluctance, or lack of interest. What was once boyishness had now acquired maturity. Had he made me feel like this yesterday, I would have burst into tears. The gulli would travel 200 yards when he would strike it with his danda. One of the fielders tried to cheat. Gaya immediately caught him. Now I realized that yesterday Gaya only pretended to be playing. He had taken pity on me. I had cheated, but he didn't lose his temper because he was not playing but only letting me play. He didn't want me to chase the gulli endlessly. I was an officer and this position had created a wall between us. Now I could get his respect, not his companionship. In childhood we were equals, but now, in this position, I was an object of his pity. He didn't consider me as his equal. He had grown taller and I had grown smaller.